Can you guys believe we have been doing this for 10 weeks now? This is the 10th episode of the Trackside Girls podcast. It does not feel like it's been 10 weeks. That doesn't feel real. Something that came out after we filmed the episode last week that I actually didn't even catch. There were so many things in our Twitter group chat that I just kind of breezed over. But Trevor Bayne was in the Xfinity race this past weekend, and I didn't even know it. And he's also going to be driving the 19 car for Bristol and Texas. We found out some news. I don't know if there was reasoning behind this. I don't know if it was financial or what. But GMS Racing, petty GMS, same thing. I believe his name is Gallagher, but GMS, plain GMS Racing, was in the truck series, and they have decided not to continue being a team after this season. So I couldn't tell you the reasoning behind it. Our bestie Parker is getting another season in the 48, which, fun fact, I am going to the Xfinity race this weekend in Darlington, so that's gonna be fun. Hopefully I will see bestie Parker and congratulate him on that. A few things before we get into the actual races at Daytona. Kurt Busch has officially announced his retirement. I felt like it was kind of a given after he stepped away last year, because he said he was stepping away from full-time racing. But this makes it official now that I guess he's not coming back for any races at all. I feel like it was kind of already known. I personally wouldn't say that was new information. If you were around during whenever the original situation went down, when he got into that accident in Pocono, and then the weeks that followed. So, the 98 truck.
So what I saw, they found inspection, and then they had to go check the truck out. And so the penalty from what it was, they had an L2 penalty following in the qualifying inspection at Milwaukee. They've been a deduction of 75 points and 5 playoff points. The crew chief for the 98 has been fined $25,000 and has been suspended for 4 races.
That sounds like a big one. Oh, he only won one race right before the playoffs started, right?
Ooh. He won to get in.
So, depending on those points, that's going to be a big hole for him to dig himself out of. Speaking of trucks, Matty D is parting ways with Rackley. Is that a team, or is that... Because I know Rackley's was on his trucks, his sponsors. But is that what he means? Is he parting ways with the sponsor?
I honestly, I don't know, because I thought Rackley was just a sponsor. I'm gonna be honest, I don't even know what team Matty B drives for.
I think it's I think it's a single truck team, because he drives the 25, I want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a single truck team. So I think it's one of the smaller ones. Good news for our boy, Carson Hocevar, is driving the 42 at Darlington this weekend. I am personally very excited, because there's a chance that I will run into Carson this weekend. Because I always love seeing Carson, and I haven't seen him since Charlotte. So I want to see our boy. On to Daytona. Honestly, very eventful, I'd say. Start off, technically, the trucks are at Milwaukee, so they're separate. They weren't at the same track. But Grant Enfinger got pole. I only watched the end of the truck race because I had pulled up the NASCAR app and saw that Carson was in second. Is the boy about to win and get himself into the round of but unfortunately, he came up second. Grant Enfinger won. Okay, anyway, Daytona. Xfinity, Austin Hill got the Xfinity pole. I honestly completely forgot that Daytona was a Saturday night race. Who won the Xfinity race?
Justin Allgaier.
Oh, that I do remember. Wait, it was the last lap, wasn't it? Actually, maybe I did watch the Xfinity race. Junior Motorsports being as dominant as always. Very proud of Justin. I think the real thing that people would be more interested in is the Cup race. For once, a Daytona Cup race didn't get delayed due to rain, but there was a lot more during this race. Chase Briscoe got pole. I didn't get to watch qualifying. That threw me for a loop when they got put in the group chat. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Chase. Like, he's so cool. Like, I would have never expected Chase Briscoe to get pole at Daytona, if I'm gonna be honest. The two big things that happened. So on the front row, we had Ty Gibbs and Ryan Blaney. And behind Ty Gibbs was his teammate, Christopher Bell. And Christopher Bell gave Ty Gibbs a little love tap. And sent Ty into Ryan Blaney's is that what, right quarter?
Yeah. Right there. Like,
yeah. And
right.
sent him head first into the wall. Luckily, the safety of these cars, of the safer barrier, like, everything is so much more advanced, because I've heard people saying that the way that he wrecked was very similar to Dale Earnhardt. You just have to be thankful for, I wouldn't say they perfected it, but what NASCAR is working to create, like, as in safety. But yeah, so that one took out, what, 17? Like, I think 17 different cars were in it.
It was a 16 car pileup.
Austin got taken out. Harrison got taken out. Like, obviously Ty Gibbs. Like, everyone I had in my picks got screwed on that. So, yeah, that was rough. Then I would say towards the end of the race, I believe it was stage 3. Who hit him? Who hit Ryan Preece?
Eric Jones.
Eric Jones.
Don't even get me started on Eric Jones.
Don't get me started on Eric Jones.
That is not the first time, and it probably won't be the last, that something has been caused by Eric Jones. But you guys have probably seen all over Twitter, Instagram, pretty much everywhere, because it was one of the biggest wrecks that NASCAR has had in quite a while. Ryan Preece went airborne and barrel rolled about at least a dozen times through the infield.
He flipped 12 times. My dad counted it.
And people have said, like, they have never seen one of these cars get that much height. We're beyond thankful that he was able to get out and walk away from that. Stuart Haas has, actually, I think even Ryan has posted as well, saying that he's fine. Like, I believe he was released from the hospital only a day or so after, even though that wreck looked very, very scary. I think he walked away this one very lucky. So I don't know who his guardian angel is, but they pulled out a big favor on that one, I would say. Something that was a little funny, while they were cleaning all this up after Ryan's wreck, they had 2 red flag drivers and had them stopped on the backstretch. And over in the little, like, paved area between the track and the inner wall, Brad Keselowski is just driving in circles. It's funny, like, they shared the in-car cameras and radio of other drivers who were watching this, like Alex Bowman. He was like, I wish I had my phone out here. This would be a great Instagram story. What? You know what? I'm not even gonna question why that's the first thing that Alex comes up with.
It's Alex Bowman.
Yeah, true. But he believed that he was on fire. So he just had to get the car moving to get some ventilation, and hopefully put out whatever was happening. And it seemed to work. Everybody was making jokes, comparing him to Talladega Nights when Ricky Bobby was running around, in his underwear, saying that he was on fire. But even though Brad was on fire, his night ended very well, because he finished second, right behind his teammate and the other car that he owns, Chris Buescher. And Chris Buescher has now won 3 races on the season. And I feel like that's a lot of momentum going into the postseason and the chase for the championship. So it is, I'd say it's very possible that, so, I don't know, okay. So I'm at a toss-up. Okay, I'd say my two picks for the championship 4. William Byron and Chris Buescher. And potentially Martin Truex. I don't know who I'd pick as a 4th. But those are the other 3, I'd say. IndyCar. They raced at Worldwide Technology Raceway. We found out Marcus Ericsson is going to be moving to Andretti Autosport in 2024. So the race, Scott McLaughlin got the pole. I believe this was his first pole on an oval. But going into this race, championship leader Alex Palou got a grid penalty. I believe it was 9 places, I want to say. I can't remember exactly what for, but that was a pretty big upset for the championship leader. Because, as we mentioned before, he had to be at least 106 or 109 points above P2 in the championship to clinch the seasons. And that didn't happen for him, leaving Worldwide Technology, because Scott Dixon won the IndyCar race. Pato O'Ward came second. Our boy with another podium. he was actually Pato was kind of frustrated about that. He's been so close. I think this is at least his fourth. I want to say it's probably more. Podium of the season, and he in his interview he was so frustrated. He was like, "I'm always getting second. Like, why can't I get a little bit more?" But anyway, Scott Dixon won. This is win number 55 of his career. And the point gap to Palou is now 74 points. Meaning, with these couple races left, there's a very big chance that second place could catch up to Alex Palou. So, Alex Palou better watch himself. But you guys always know I gotta bring in my transition between IndyCar and Formula One. But good news. Marcus and Lizzie finally have a hard launch photo. It's so cute. Sorry. Okay. Alright. Now, on to Formula One. Nico and Kevin re-signed to Haas, so we officially have our lineup for Haas Formula One team for next season. Something I didn't know before last weekend, but like I found it out like mid-weekend during Zandvoort. Robert Schwartzman, who is reserve driver for Ferrari, and I know he used to be on Prima, but I don't know how he's involved now. But he drove free practice 1 in place of Carlos. So he's gotten some laps under his belt in a Formula One car. Not too sure how much experience he has prior to that session, but I thought that was really cool that Robert got to drive around Zandvoort. Speaking of driving around Zandvoort, how about driving to Zandvoort? Because that's what Charles Leclerc had to do. He had an ear infection before Zandvoort, so I believe it was, I want to say a 14-hour drive from Monaco to Zandvoort. Because you really do not want to fly when you have an ear infection. It will make it so much worse. So that was a smart decision on his part, which, if I'm gonna be honest, it was probably like a doctor or something that's on the team that made that decision. But still, I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt, and hopefully he's the one that was like, you know what, maybe I shouldn't do that. But anyway, something I'm kind of proud of, I believe it was an FP1, Alex Albon matched Checo Perez's lap on soft tires. Checo's first lap on softs, and Alex pretty much matched it. Okay, listen. Hear me out. Hear me out. What would have happened if Red Bull kept Alex Albon? Like, you can see what Alex is doing in a Williams. Imagine what he could do in the current Red Bull car. Just saying. Okay, anyway. There was a red flag in in FP1 for Nico. He went off at turn 13 and went into the wall. Kind of a rough start to the weekend for our boy who just got re-signed. But it looked like he only had wing damage. Our two-time world champion, our current championship leader, went into the gravel at the end of FP1. So, sorry guys, he's not mortal. He's not perfect. He makes mistakes sometimes as well. So, the part where I cried during the weekend, FP2, both our Aussie boys, Oscar and Daniel Ricciardo, wrecked. First, Oscar, he went into the barriers, and he was kind of in an awkward spot, and Daniel didn't see him in time, and so Daniel went into the wall. So it was either, literally, Daniel's options were either hit Oscar or hit the wall. So Daniel chose to steer into the wall. And due to the impact of the tires on the wall, the steering wheel quickly snapped in a different direction. And Daniel wasn't able to pull his hands away fast enough. So he ended up breaking his wrist, and he went to the same specialist that Lance went to, because Lance was able to be back in the car driving by 2 weeks, I think. Daniel did have to have surgery because his wrist was broken, officially. That led to Liam Lawson. He used to be a junior Red Bull driver, which I guess technically he still is because he was racing in Super Formula, still as a Red Bull driver. But yes, Liam Lawson took over after that session, and he will also be filling in for Daniel at Monza, which for me, that kind of hurts because Daniel won Monza in 2021 in a not so great McLaren, so I really wish I could have seen what he was able to do with an AlphaTauri. Back to FP2. Carlos went into the gravel. That seems like it was kind of the trend of the weekend. The weather wasn't so great. The drivers were toughing it out. Our boy Lando Norris was fastest in FP2, so we had such high hopes. You know what? I kind of feel like a Ferrari fan in that instance. I'm being having such high hopes and being disappointed.
Too soon.
K-Mag into the barriers, and then Zhou Guanyu into the gravel. Anyway, happy note for a split second. Logan Sargent got into Q3 for the first time this season.
I cried. Bro, I've cried, I feel like, the last 2 weeks. I really have cried, the last 2 weeks, honestly. I feel like, over race weekends.
During Q3, Logan does crash out, and he had a BBW failure, which is brake by wire. The team principal, James, did confirm that there was a drop in pressure before that accident. So they did find out the issue, but because he wrecked, the highest he could place when starting on the grid is 10th, which is the highest qualifying American since Michael Andretti. I saw this thing, and it said Logan Sargent saw the red, white, and blue in the Dutch flag, and 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 took it as his time to shine. Another crash of Q3 was Charles Leclerc. Charles, so they don't have service roads around Zandvoort. So it's not like they could send out like a moped or something to go pick up the drivers that are stuck on the other side of the circuit. So instead, if a driver wrecks out or something and they can't get back to the pits because I think they said it was like a 5 where Charles was, I think they said it was like a 5-kilometer walk back to the paddock, and I'm pretty sure Charles said, yeah, no, that's not happening, and took over a marshal's chair, and was just chilling. So that turned out to be a meme, and people have paired it with the picture of Alonso, who looked like he was asleep in a lawn chair. Max got pole. I feel like that's a given. It's his home race, and he's a very good driver. In between the Formula 1 stuff that was happening during the weekend, Formula 2 also raced, and there was actually a very scary crash during the Formula 2 race. Like, one of the cars ended up on top of another one. Like, you can see, I can't remember which drivers it was, but, like, the pictures of them outside of the car, you can just, like, see the distress on them. They were, like, they realized how close that was. I believe that was the sprint that accident happened, because I believe in the feature race, Frederick Vesti lost both rear tires. Like, they literally just rolled off his car. So, somebody clearly did not tighten those right. And the radio from the guy who was behind him is so funny. Like, he's in the middle of explaining to his engineer, yeah, Vesti looks like he's about to, and then the tires come off, and then just the sound that he makes, like, reacting to this is so funny. Like, now that is probably gonna be a meme. So, this entire, like, F2 weekend was insane, because a lot had to happen for, okay, as much as I love him, as much as I love Screaming Meals, for Clement Novalak to win an F2 race? A lot had to happen. It's okay. We had James, our favorite F2 wag. It was actually kind of cute. James was so happy for him. Which, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy for him too. Like, I didn't watch the race, but I mean, he had to, like, he had to have proved himself to be able to get it, you know? Honestly, might go back and watch it, just because, I want to see what happened. Before the race, Max was being cameraman for McLaren. McLaren gave him a, like, old retro camcorder, and it had a little tag on it that said, just press red button. And so Max went around before the race interviewing all the drivers. And as much as I loved, like, the interaction with, like, Lando, Max, Charles, Nico was in there, Valtteri, like, waved, you know, but my favorite one was Liam Lawson. Like, Max was, like, asking them questions, you know, and then Max asks Liam, are you nervous? how you feel. And then the, like, nervous laugh that comes out of Liam is, like, literally, like, 100% made me laugh. Like, I get it. It's your first F1 start. But, and so you have to be, like, you have to be nervous. But just his reaction to Max asking him, like, Liam is a junior Red Bull driver. So he obviously looks up to Max. And, like, and is probably hoping to race alongside Max eventually. So I feel like if I was in Liam's shoes and Max Verstappen asked me if I was nervous, like, let's get into the Dutch Grand Prix. Ferrari strikes again and screws Charles's pit stop. I want to say that was all Ferrari, but I heard that Charles said that he wanted to come in as he was entering the pit lane. So it is a very big possibility that he did not give the team enough time to prepare. This wouldn't be the first time that Ferrari screwed up a pit stop, and most likely won't be the last. And so the rain got so bad, Charles got put on inters and still went through the gravel. The winner of this weekend was the rain, okay? Charles got front wing damage. Charles was running in front of Carlos, and Charles was going slower than Carlos, okay? And we know that Charles is Ferrari's golden boy, okay? That's not new information. Originally, Ferrari wouldn't let Carlos pass Charles. But a little bit later, they changed their mind and was like, yes, you can pass. I don't know where Ferrari's going with this, to be honest. The rain did not do too well with our boy Logan, because he crashed in the race. Very unfortunate, because he with his best starting position, I was really hoping that he'd finish in the points. Hopefully it wasn't just a fluke. Hopefully he can't blame it on, like, oh, yeah, I mean, I qualified 10th, but, like, I DNF'd that race. But, like, you still qualified 10th. That's speed. Like, pull that off at Monza. Come on. It's literally the temple of speed. Prove them wrong, Logan. Okay? We need a USA moment, okay?
My boy Logie Bear.
Like, come on. But K-Mag, Kevin Magnussen got a black and white flag for moving under braking on Alex Albon, and you could tell on Alex's radio message he was not happy about that. And then Yuki also got a black and white flag because he was apparently forcing another driver off the track. Which, okay, I feel like is kind of on brand for Yuki. Like, if you look at him, he's so tiny, he looks so sweet, but like once he gets in that car, once he puts that helmet on, he is a menace. Okay? Like, if you've heard his, like, previous radio messages in the past years, that man gets aggressive. Rip to the Ferrari fans. And an even bigger rip to Charles Leclerc fans, because he retired on lap 43.
My heart.
Something I did think was cool, George Russell had an incredible save after touching, like, part of his wheels on grass And he, like, that should have ended way worse. But, like, watching the onboard camera of Lewis, who's right behind him, like, I have no idea how he saved that. Started raining even harder. Checo just went straight into turn 1 because of how wet it was. To be honest, I was kind of laughing. But because the rain got so bad, Zhou Guan Yu went into the barriers, and they decided to red flag the race, which at first Max was like, why are you red flagging it? There's like no reason for this. And then he later was like, you know what, actually it was a good thing that they red flagged this race, for like to give it time, because I think it was maybe like 15 minutes or so, like for the rain to pass. It was probably longer than that, but anyway, the race got red flagged, and as it got red flagged, Checo was in the pit lane. So it just completely screwed Checo. Because he wasn't able to leave the pit lane after doing the pit stop because it was red flagged. So he had to sit at the end of the pit lane and wait for everything. I literally, in all caps, this is what I sent into the group chat for that specific moment. All caps. Ha 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 ha. Checo might have just been screwed. So, those so those are my thoughts on Checo. Anyway, Yuki got a 5-second time penalty. Couldn't exactly remember what for. It could have potentially been for forcing somebody off the track. But so he had that 5-second time penalty. So during the red flag, most of the drivers are out of their cars, talking with their strategist, things like that. And then you have Liam Lawson, who is sitting in his car, eating something, in the middle of a red flag. Like, I don't know much about Liam Lawson, but it feels like that would be a Liam Lawson thing. Like, that was so funny whenever I saw it. And I was like, there is no way this man is eating during a red flag. So they showed Yuki during the red flag, and he had his fireproof sleeves pulled over his hands. And like I said, okay, Yuki, small boy, very cute, you know, adorable. So that just like fueled my like, oh my god, Yuki is so adorable. So if he doesn't want to be seen like that, like, that's his own fault. And then another winning moment for me. Checo got a 5-second time penalty while he was in third. And he finishes third, but because of the 5-second time penalty, he is moved down a place. George Russell retires during the race. And because of Checo's time penalty, we got a Pierre Gasly podium.
Yeah.
And it was his first one since Baku 2021.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I feel like Pierre's had it kind of hard. He won Monza in 2020 in an AlphaTauri, which is, I feel like, a very big feat at that point in time. And he he lost one of his very good friends, Antoine. And then I believe we mentioned in the episode after Spa that they did the like track walk / run for Antoine, and Pierre put a note basically like talking to Antoine, saying that he'll prove them wrong. And then he goes out and gets P3 at the sprint that weekend, and then now he's on the podium for the first race back. So I don't know. I'm a fan of Pierre. Like, originally he was in my top 4 drivers like earlier this season, until like I started to get to know like some of the other drivers. But very proud of Pierre. Something that was really cool was DJ Martin Garrix. You should probably recognize that name because we've mentioned it before. Was the one waving the checkered flag at Zandvoort. And if you don't know Martin Garrix, first and foremost, he's a DJ. But he's also friends with multiple people on the grid, like Daniel Ricciardo, Lando Norris, Max Verstappen. Those are just the few that I've seen him with. But that was really cool to see. Everybody was very excited about that from what I saw on Twitter. And he was waving the checkered flag when Max crossed the finish line. Max won the race. So obviously the entire track blew up with orange flares, celebrating Max. Something I thought was really cute. So at this race, it's Max's home race, and so his I don't believe she's older, but like older than his younger sister. I believe her name is Victoria. Max's sister was there. Max's mom, Max's grandma, like the whole family was there, and as well as Kelly. And so it was cute to see the family there. I was kind of surprised that Joss and I believe the little sister's name is Jay, but I'm not too sure. But I was surprised that I didn't see them there. But it's still cute to see Max have at least part of his family there, celebrating at his home race. So Liam Lawson, I can't remember if I mentioned this before. I'll find out in post editing. So I originally made the comment that Liam Lawson looks short, but I don't actually know how tall he is. But it just, in that video, with him standing next to Charles and Lando and them, like, I felt like he looked short. But anyway, Liam Lawson finishes 13th in his first F1 start. That does unfortunately break his streak of winning his debut on every series he is done. But still, 13th for your first ever Formula race. I feel like that's pretty good, especially in an AlphaTauri. And he finished above Yuki, I do believe. So I think he's a step in the right direction. Lando seemed very frustrated on some of his radio messages during the race. And I believe he was still on slicks during part of the rain while everybody else was on inters. And he expresses that he wants to box to be put on inters. And I guess it's his race engineer over the radio goes or says that he was faster than the people on inters. But during that, you can see the footage of everyone driving past him. Like, Jesus, just bring my boy in and put him on inters. Like, literally, he thrives in wet weather. Like, just give him the inters and he can do it, okay? So, I feel like that kind of screwed him a little bit. And then something, just the way that he said it, like, I don't know if it was, like, sarcastic or what, or, like, but as he was entering the pit lane, over the radio, he goes, box Lando pit lane. So, like, everybody was trying to figure out if that's, like, a tell of, like, telling his crew that, like, oh, okay, I'm in the pit lane, like, I'm on my way, be ready, you know? But just the way that he said it, it was kind of funny. Max got his new Hungary trophy. They had to have it remade because Lando broke it. Lando was there with him whenever Max received it, and Max said, "Yep, not letting Lando touch this one." There's video of it on Max's Instagram, I want to say. Okay, side note to that, Max wears way too tight of pants. Like, it's not relevant to anything, but, like, that man wears tighter pants than I used to. And I used to wear, like, extra skinny jeans. So, couldn't tell you why, or, like, I think we also need to give him some fashion advice. Because literally, the majority of what he wears is Red Bull. Because while he was out with Alex, George, and Lando, they were hanging out. I think they were playing tennis, I want to say. I think it was tennis. Max was wearing a Red Bull shirt. But I'm pretty sure it was specifically, like, a Verstappen.com Red Bull shirt for, like, his Team Redline stuff. And I'm like, boy, aren't you sponsored by anybody else? Like, we have Lando in, like, Puma gear. And, like, I'm pretty sure Mercedes is sponsored by Puma. So, like, George would be wearing that too. Like, come on, Max. I know there is somewhere out there that you can get other active wear, okay? and potentially even get paid for it because you have millions of followers. So, come on. Okay. Anyway. So, that's our news. The weekend. NASCAR has Darlington. Xfinity and Cup are racing. The Southern 500 was won by Eric Jones. But I can't remember who won the Xfinity race. Yeah, I don't think I stayed for the entirety of the Southern 500 last year. I think I saw... Wait! Last year's Southern 500 is whenever I got on TV with Chase Elliott.
Must be nice.
Oh, it wasn't very nice. He didn't even acknowledge me.
Oh, so he does to me.
It was, so he was driving that, the car that was drawn by a kid last year, and he hit the wall and the DVP clock ran out, so he drove the car back into the garage, and he got out of the car and walked straight past me and, like, didn't even acknowledge me.
I have that shirt and car.
Alright, so we got Darlington this weekend for NASCAR. IndyCar is right back at it again. They're going to Portland this time, and that is Portland, Oregon, not Portland, Maine. If you guys needed me to clarify that. And then Formula One is at Monza, the Temple of Speed, the home of the Tifosi. Man, so I have a friend. This is like a side note. But I have a friend who was at the race in Monza in 2019 and witnessed Charles Leclerc win. And he wasn't anywhere close to the podium. Because I don't think he was able to get like that close with all the crowds and stuff. But he sent me pictures of that moment, and I'm like, I am so jealous. It's like, he wins at Spa, he wins at Monza. Gosh, okay. Anyway, so that is what is upcoming for the weekend. Alright. Thanks, you guys, for sticking with us for 10 episodes, 10 weeks. Feels very strange that it's been this long. Does not feel like that. Time is irrelevant. Time does not exist. That's it from us, guys. Thanks for watching and listening, or listening, however you are enjoying this podcast. But it has been the 10th episode of the Trackside Girls podcast. Bye, guys!
Bye.